Hey, wow, there's a lot of people joined. How are y'all doing? It's been a few weeks. Uh, yeah, sorry, I've missed. I guess it's been 3 weeks that I missed. I guess 3 weeks ago, I think I was like busy trying to finish something up or whatever, so I didn't have coffee with Eric that week. And then the last 2 weeks, I've been out of town. Usually towards the end of the summer, I go visit my parents. They have a cabin up in near Canada, so we do some fishing and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to broadcast from up there and everything though. So I'm back now though, so kind of getting back into the normal swing of things. Um, the one slight bit of excitement is this week is coffee with Eric in bedroom. So we have some guests staying with us for a few weeks from Poland actually. So Aga, my girlfriend and my technically my wife. Actually, we're married now, but that's a different story. But yeah, she's from Poland, so some of her family's visiting. So I am broadcasting from and working from our bedroom at the moment. So here I am. But yes, I did catch some fish. I can show fish pictures. This is super exciting. Let's see some fish pictures. Where where did the fish pictures go? Here's some. So here's me and a bunch of cousins catching some fish up in close to Canada. So very exciting. But yeah, it was a fun trip. Did a lot of uh, just canoeing and camping and stuff like that. So there's where we stayed. Our little beach campsite we set up. There's my dad. Um, there's our fish. What else is there? There's there's some potatoes. So anyway, so yeah, that's where I've been. I'm better at coding than fishing, but at least I got a few fish. But we had a good time. Oh, thank you. uh, well, on the marriage thing, we're technically, I mean, we are technically married. We're getting married next year in Poland, actually. um, so that's where she's from. So we'll be doing like the official ceremony thing. But we had to get legally married in order to like get the paperwork transferred and all that stuff. So I guess that takes some time. So we're technically married, but not really. But well, just to go off on that for a moment is because we needed to get like legally married. We decided to have some fun with it instead of like going to the courthouse and doing something boring. We where is it? We went to Vegas and had an Elvis wedding. It was super awesome. So there's me and Aga and Elvis in Vegas. So yeah, so if anyone's gonna be in Poland like next summer, come do the wedding. That's true, Sock. You're like there already. It's gonna be near Krakow, so yeah, you should totally come. We'll give you the details. So how has everyone been the past few weeks? Sorry, I'll get into actual technical stuff here. Moment in a moment. Technically married, which is a better kind of married, yes. You don't want to be like physically married or emotionally married. You want to be technically married. I hear crazy stories about Polish weddings, so I'm kind of interested to see what they're like. Yeah, our code is our children. I feel like I've been like a code parent for many years. Prepare for several drunk uncles. Okay. Cool, cool. Matrix space. I haven't like heard. I'm not super familiar with Matrix, so I will have to read up on that. But that's cool. Missed a lot of episodes in here while you're gone. Well, you didn't miss any of the last 3 weeks, so we've had a little break, but we're back now. So that's cool. Got a new phone. How's your new phone, Sock? And a new laptop. So much new stuff. Everyone's getting new stuff. This is exciting. On that note, I'm getting very close to maybe pulling the trigger and buying myself like the cheapest possible like Steam Deck um, for testing. It's one of those things where it would be cool to have, and it would actually be useful for testing because I currently don't have an easy way to like test the Android or not the Android the Linux version of the game. I can like build it on AWS machines, and I have like one laptop that's running like a Linux virtual machine that I can spin up Linux and run it there, and so like it is possible for me to test, but it's really awkward, or it's not easy to do, so I just don't do it. So I was thinking if I get a Steam Deck, that would actually be a really easy way to test the Linux version and make sure it behaves well on there and stuff. So I might, speaking of new fun toys, I might maybe pull the trigger on that soon. Oh no, yeah, that's always how it goes. You get used to like limited battery life, so it takes a while to get used to a new thing. Burr, burr, burr. Mom squad photo. I'll take a look. Maybe I'll take a look and show it next time, or I'll. I feel like I'm so bad at like looking at DMs and like. Oh, also I feel like I shouldn't look at DMs like while I'm broad or screencasting because then they're not really private. Playing Bomb Squad with Xbox 360 joystick. It should be possible. This is one of those things there's not like a single answer to. I mean, on like Windows, it should work well. It used to work well on Mac. Like a long time ago, Xbox 360 was like my go-to gamepad. I'd actually, when I'd play with friends, we'd always have like 8-player games, and I'd have like 4 Xbox 360 controllers using one of the little like dongle things, and then I'd have 4 PS3 controllers that were going over Bluetooth, and so that actually worked well. Like it seemed to handle those 8 quite well. But that was on Mac, of course. I mean, I think Windows probably would work better even. Linux is a different thing. Android's a different thing. Like I've seen like some Android devices seemed to work well with those and others didn't. So you would just have to try. But the game tries to be pretty general with device support and controller support. So hopefully Xbox 360 should still be working. Um, the On a random note, the most recent, like when I've played with 8 players, more recently, it was on my Mac using. Actually, I splurged and bought a bunch of like newer Xbox controllers. They're not like specific to Xboxes anymore now, right? It's like you can buy. It's just like the Xbox. It's not even called like Xbox One controller or whatever, or I don't know what they're called. But anyway, it's the newest Xbox controllers, which is all just using Bluetooth LE, I think. And that worked great. I had like 8 of those in a game on my Mac, and like there was no lag or anything, so I was pretty happy. Guess Eric's age more than 40. Oh, yeah, I am sadly just a bit more than 40. It's super weird. Um, it's like 40's always been. I remember my parents being 40 and stuff, and that was like 40 is so old, and now I'm like just hit 40 myself. Ew. Yeah, exactly. See, like I'm not supposed to be 40. Like moms are supposed to be 40 and stuff. I still think of like my dad as 40. It's like what the heck? Brr, 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 brr. All right, I'm probably missing stuff, but my dad is. Aw. Yeah, I guess like it is interesting for me anyway, like getting older. It's like age, 40. It used to seem I remember going out with friends, and we'd see a gal at a bar or something and be like "Oh, she looks like 30. She's so old. Stay away from her." Stuff like that. And now 30 seems like, "Oh my gosh, that's nothing." I assume everyone else can hear audio okay. You probably would have told me by now. And I am recording. When you get old like me, it's important to check these things. I'm streaming over Wi-Fi. I usually have Ethernet, so hopefully this isn't worse quality than normal for people. But it's having to go Wi-Fi through a wall or two. How can I send picture in message? I don't know. If you drag it in here, does that work? What is this? Oh, black hole. I love black hole. Let's see. That was a crazy looking character. Oh, wow. That's super cool. That is awesome. I love the big like poof at the end. That's awesome. Does that black hole does it get like stronger over time, or is it stay the same? Because part of me like I want to hear like a sound effect like 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 this growing intensity sort of thing. But yeah, that is awesome. I was gonna say that is. I sort of blame myself. Like I feel like the TNT explosion in the game. Like I feel like it's not cool enough, or it's not like big enough feeling. So that's something. Once if I have time to revisit the graphics at some point, I'd love to make like a cooler looking, like not a mushroom cloud, but like some big explosion effect that people could use for big stuff like that. So I think you did a really good job of kind of making your own here. That's very cool. So yeah, like the little electrical bits and stuff. I think that's something that is, it's very important to just when you have like super powered weapons or something, like giving them some sort of, yeah, just visual effect or, something where like they look impressive, that can kind of help communicate that like, whoa, this is a much bigger explosion than the normal bombs. So I think stuff like that is important, or like a big flash of light or a sound effect or, just something to kind of really sell the fact that they're big. Okay, cool. Sound effect is added. Yeah, on my first watch there, I mean maybe the music was drowning it out or something. I didn't really like hear too much of it, so I don't know if that's something if that's useful feedback. Just as a first impression was like it visually looked really cool, but I didn't hear like I would almost expect it to be louder or something, or have like this growing like I said. Um, but very cool stuff. Click to see attachment. Ah. Oh, what is it? Oh boy. Is that? Yeah, it's been a while. I don't remember like why that is unused or spaz scream. I guess that was like an alternate for like the long scream for like falling noises. But yeah, it's that's been quite a while since I've set those up, so I don't remember like the story of why I didn't go with that one or whatever. Um, that does bring up a interesting point though. Is it would be fun. I feel like it's funny. Like screams are funny and stuff. Like a character falling or just like getting hit with something or anything. It'd be fun to almost have like a bigger variety of them or something. But the downside is like then you'd have to do that for every single character, which would start to be a lot of work. But I don't know, like a different scream for I don't know if your character catches on fire or like different things that could happen. It would just be funny. Like have you ever seen like the movie Home Alone? I mean, probably everyone has seen that. Where the guys are trying to break into Kevin McAllister's house at Christmas, and he's basically has all these traps. And like, what's funny about the movie is like every time something happens to them, they're always like screaming in like just a funny way. It's just like the pain is funny. So it's kind of the same thing with the game. It's like making even though it's not like serious pain, it's like cartoony violence, but like that stuff is funny. Ooh, Bomb Squad and MOBA. That would be yeah, that is awesome. I want to see this. Nice fists. That's cool. Awesome. Yeah, stuff like that I'd love to play with that. Just, I mean, I love that you're playing with that, which is super cool. But yeah, just like different things you could do, with these characters, like different kind of styles, like a little mini RTS or a MOBA or something like that. So that's why in general I feel like I'm almost not pivoting, but I'm spending a lot of time on the technical side of things and trying to get infrastructure in place. Is like I want to get these kind of tool sets working so that people can experiment with stuff like that and hopefully share that stuff easier once the cloud stuff is finally working better, which I'm still working on. That's partly why I don't have super exciting updates these past few weeks, or like I didn't have a coffee with Eric 3 weeks ago, as I think I was mainly working on server stuff, so there wasn't anything super exciting to show. Upload the iOS video now. Yeah, if you'd like to, go ahead. People can see what things look like on iOS. I still think it's like super awesome that you guys are. I mean, I guess it's not like super hackery, that you found that stuff. It was kind of dumb on my part that I didn't notice that it was all just totally visible with through regular HTTP. But I guess that's also a lesson to me. Like they always say, you should never rely on security through obscurity. Like you shouldn't just hide a URL and hope people don't find it, because they'll find a way to find it. And again, I mean, I'm not trying to like hide the iOS version from people or anything like that. I just don't want people to be like disappointed, or, more disappointed than they already are that iOS is not out yet. Yeah, just totally like Hacker Man. Or what was that? What did that come from? Hacker Man. Yeah. Like that dude. I love that guy. So, new version of the game. There actually, on that note, there is a new version out in limited form now. It's kind of a minor update, but I pushed test builds out earlier today, so 1726 is available for anyone who wants to play with that. I'm not quite done with it. It's still kind of like a work in progress sort of thing. But it's out. Test builds are out on ballistica.net, and also the beta versions of, or the test builds on Google Play Open Testing should be out too. So if you are signed up for Open Testing on Google Play, you should see that version. And the main thing I wanted to mention that is new there's a few. I mean, a lot of the changes here are just like build system changes, which I'll get into soon. But the one thing I added last night, and I'm curious if any of you, would want to give me feedback on that or let me know if it's working or not working, is Android should now be better about detecting hardware keyboards. So there's starting to be more cases where people are running Android stuff on, say, PC or things like that, and so hopefully that will start to work better there. Or just if you happen to have a keyboard plugged into your Android phone or tablet or whatever, it should be picking that up more. So if I come in here and I will go ahead and build the Android version, and the Android emulator here, it emulates a keyboard, I believe, so it should show that working. What? And Android Studio is being Android Studio-ish. Cannot do things that I did an hour ago. Let's try this again. So again, the update is available on Google Play testing channel. It's not released fully on Google Play yet, just because I'm curious if I like broke it for everybody. But anyway, here's the game running sideways. So if you have a keyboard attached, you come into Settings, Controllers. You should see Configure Keyboard and Configure Keyboard P2 in this case. So same as the PC builds and whatnot. And then I should be able to come in here and just type keys and works. Oh, that's not right. Left. Okay, well, apparently there's some bugs I need to fix. If you hold down Shift, if I do Shift 7, it does left Shift as the is the key. Okay, I found a bug. But anyway, so yeah, if any of you want to test that, and the one thing that I'm kind of watching out for there is, so the interesting thing with Android is it's really kind of tricky to determine the difference between a keyboard and like a gamepad or a joystick. Like basically Android tells you like, oh hey, there's a device connected, an input device. But a lot of input devices basically say that like, hey, I'm a keyboard, but they also say like, hey, I'm a gamepad. So the game is kind of it's tricky to try to make the right choice for them. So if you have something like a gamepad or a joystick that you've been playing the game with, and suddenly it is now behaving as a keyboard, like it shows up under the keyboard configure section, let me know. That means I probably did something wrong, but I hopefully did it well enough that now most keyboards should work. But we'll see. Android is always fun. It throws some curveballs. Also detect built-in keyboard. No, it looks, in this case, it's looking specifically for, oh, well, if you mean like a built-in hardware keyboard, then it should. Like if you had like a BlackBerry-looking Android phone, then it should. I could show you the exact code. Like it's looking for, let's see. I need to open source the Android portion of the code at some point. I know I've been kind of avoiding that for security reasons. Don't want people like hacking the game more than they are already. But we're getting close to, I should be able to start running more tournaments and things on my servers. And so in that case, then it doesn't matter if people are hacking the clients. Oh yeah, so here is the fun bit of code to try to determine like, is this device a keyboard? Is full hardware keyboard. Input device, wrapper, device. Oh, no, yeah, that's where it prints it. But yeah, this is, if it's not virtual and the keyboard type is alphabetic and the character map.keyboard type is full or alpha, then we consider it a hardware keyboard. We consider it a game controller if any of this weird stuff is true. If source gamepad is blah, 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 source joystick, source D-pad. But yeah, in a lot of cases, things will show up as full hardware keyboard and game controller. So then we have to make a decision like, if the device says it's both, then we just assume it's a keyboard. So anyway, there's lots of logic going on there. So like I said, just let me know if you have gamepads that are showing up as keyboards or vice versa. I'm guessing that probably weird stuff like holding down Control or Shift or whatever. I mean, I just found that bug that like Shift something doesn't work. So I may have to look into stuff like that. But like basic keyboard usage, just like typing letters, that should work. Or assigning character actions to like WASD or the arrow keys and things like that. Like I said, the corner cases like holding down Control or Shift or other things like that, I will probably need to fix some stuff there. But hopefully it's working at least better than it was. Oh no. What did I miss? Yeah, always remind me if I miss stuff. I know like sometimes there's like 5 messages flying through and it's hard to hit them all. Oh, cool. Bomb spawner mod, birthday edition. Cool. Yeah, ping me after this. I can take a look. I can take like a closer look at stuff or give you some feedback. But good to see. Or if you ever want to, set up a server or something like that, we can start. It'd be good to get back into like playing some games at the end of these. I don't know if that would be a good idea today with my Wi-Fi. I mean, it's probably fine, but yeah, super cool stuff. And then yeah, always feel free to ping me if I forget to follow up or whatever. I'm notoriously forgetful sometimes. Cool. Tanks. Crazy Santa Claus looking dude with guns. Nice. I would love to. I know we're always talking about, like having, gun dynamics or something for fun, but like bow and arrow dynamics would be fun too. Just little like projectiles that you shoot that are kind of more like arrows. That's cool. Little Robin Hood looking dude. Support. Oh, nice. I feel something about having like a flower looking dude that just says like support. Like this is a area of effect person. Nice. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, definitely keep me updated on how that's coming out. That's awesome. How to hack Eric's computer. Just use HTTP. Alt F4. See, I've always, like, not always, I mean, I've used Windows and Linux and whatever, but I feel like I've missed out on, like, the Alt F4 jokes that all the Windows people have. 'Cause it's like on Mac, that's like, it doesn't do anything. Like I said, you 160. Oh yeah, I apologize. You can tell I've been gone. I have like a bajillion DMs I need to get caught up on. I don't want to I don't want to out people by showing their messages here, so I will check them after. But I try to always when I'm behind, I try to like click through and at least like read people's stuff or respond to them before um, broadcasting or screencasting here, because now you all see how slackerish I am in terms of. Uh, but again, I was on vacation. I have an excuse. That's cool. Little neat. This would be fun too. On a side note, it'd be super cool to make. I mean, I like Bomb Squad's style, like the clay style, the claymation animation style. But it would be super cool to make a game, I think, in like Tron style. So stuff like this, just like glowy lines, basically. Um, Maybe we can do something like that sometime, just like a weird mod or spin-off project or something like that. Like clay, but also glowy lines. I don't know. So the thing with HTTPS, it wasn't that like it wasn't couldn't be hacked. It was simply that when I configured the server, I had it like hide certain directories, um, just because I was lazy and that was my way to prevent people from finding like the iOS build. But when I configured it, I didn't realize I was only configuring HTTPS. So regular HTTP still showed everything. Really help if you could look at the CPP layer code. I was trying to add new attribute to the prop node. Oh, yeah, if you can point me towards something, but basically attributes and stuff on nodes need to be added, like at when the node type is defined. So you can't really change stuff like that on the fly. I have no idea what it will do, but it couldn't be good. It'd be interesting to do like a proper glow effect. I'm sure we could make like cool looking glow characters. Um, there's always the people that do like that weird hack where like you can overdrive the color channels or whatever and get stuff that looks sort of like it glows, but it wasn't that completely was not like an intended thing. It was just something people found that's like a kind of a hack. But it'd be cool to have like a proper glow effect or something. We could kind of finesse a shader or whatever. But yeah, that would be fun, like a crazy sci-fi thing or something. Or like I said, like a spin-off project or just a mini game or something where it just has a completely different like look. Or again, like, it could still be the Bomb Squad look, like the clay look, but just like pushing it towards that like Tron look. So, but yeah, it'd be this is another thing on my infinite to-do list, but I'd love to make the shaders, or like make it easier for people to mess with shaders, at least for doing just like local mods. Then you can make your own like glow shaders and things. I mean, it would be possible now, like you can dive into all that code on. It's just under source, ballistica, base, graphics. Where is it? graphics server, I guess, probably is where most of it is. Or renderer GL, actually. That's probably it. Renderer GL has... Let me see. The game does something kind of weird where it actually defines all the shader code in line. So I also need to split this file into about 5 pieces. This is kind of how like the Python code used to be, where it's yes, almost 7,000 lines of code for this one renderer file. Super ugly. Where? Let me see if I can find the shader stuff. If I can remember where that is. Base class for fragment and vertex shaders. Yeah, so there's this like little shader class here. It's kind of ugly, but somewhere in here it actually like starts to put together little bits of source code. Oh, here it is. You can see like get vertex code. So this is C++ code that generates GLSL shader code. So it's a little awkward. That's always a little bit tricky when you have source code that generates other source code. I mean, like metaprogramming or whatever. It's super useful, but it's also kind of confusing. So here's where this little shader class generates its code. Like I said, this is simple program GL. There's a handful of kind of shader types in the game. Not too many, but most of them just come from one of these classes. It's basically, it can generate a number of different like shaders. So here it is. Yeah, here's vertex code, fragment code. Here's where it generates that. But anyway, I'd like to clean all this stuff up and maybe have more of this be like part of the asset pipeline. So instead of kind of generating all these shaders while the game is running, it would actually do that, as part of the asset builds. And so then you'd be able to actually see like the GLSL code in the same way that you can like see the the final Bob files or the Cobb files or the Python scripts that it assembles together and stuff like that. That could like open up some doors for people kind of just messing with the shaders and having fun with them. So that's something I'd like to do at some point. Also that I need to change this. Well, I guess I should probably abstract this a little bit because at some point I need to make a renderer that is not OpenGL, like a Vulkan renderer or a Metal renderer. So I'd like to kind of, if possible, like abstract some of this stuff so I don't have to like completely rewrite this big ugly same mess of code for like every different renderer. It'd be nice to somehow like share some of the code in some way. But I'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So, but yeah, there's a number of like smoke program GL. There's a few kind of specialized shaders here. This is the one that does. It's not actually crazy complicated, but this does all like the the smoke effects with kind of like the blurring the stuff behind it or kind of fading out based on how far it is from the surface and stuff like that. So anyway, fun to play with if you can if you're at the point where you can compile the C++ stuff. Anyway. I'll go way back. I've probably missed like 3 pages of comments here. Fatal error. Oh no, I've ignored something. Oh, cannot open compiler intermediate file, blah, 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 .pch. No such file or directory. I am not entirely sure on that one. Which version are you using Visual Studio 2019? Or like which version of Visual Studio are you using? Okay. Is there stuff, is there like a clean and rebuild option or that sounds like I feel like when I run into errors like that, it's usually because something has changed. Like, I built the thing months ago, and so there was a precompiled header that it built, and then, Visual Studio got updated or something, and so that header is out of date, or, there's some weird thing like that. So I don't know. Can you try just like jiggling the various handles, see if you can do like a clean or compile one file at a time or something? It's hard to tell if that is something wrong with. I mean, hopefully it's not something wrong with the code. Everything is still compiling. Like if you take a look at, if you go to GitHub, Ballistica, and workflows like CI. So this is the stuff, it runs this CI stuff every time I check something into GitHub. And so, if things are passing, that means this stuff is all working. And one of these things is, build test Windows. So you can see what it does here. It's just basically setting up, installing Python, and then it does the Windows version does a lot less than like the Linux ones, but they do a few little tests here. So Python WinCI binary build. So if you want to dig in to see what this stuff is doing, like the exact commands it's running or whatever, it's basically, it installs Visual Studio 2019, I believe, Windows 20, okay, so that's the version of Windows. Somewhere it says, or maybe that version like already has VS 2019 installed. But anyway, something in this CI is running through everything with VS 2019, and it is compiling. So, if you're running into problems, like maybe try to like basically do exactly what this is doing and see if that works, and kind of debug from there. That's the kind of thing I usually try when stuff breaks, is like find something that's not breaking and see if that works, and then slowly move from there to the thing that is breaking and see at which point it stops working. Okay, I mean, maybe that is... We could check GitHub if... I assume GitHub probably always gives you enterprise. I have community also. I have my PC in the other room that I can test on, but I have it currently turned off because otherwise it it turns itself on at 5 in the morning and updates itself. And since we have guests right now, I don't want it to do that, like right next to where they're sleeping. But yeah, I should test that because I have community on there, and I believe it still is working, but I should double check. That's also, on a side note, that's one of my to-do list things is I'd like to get the Windows stuff updated to use, what is it, VS 20, like 22, or what's the newest version of Visual Studio Community? It's 22 or 23 or 21 or something. 22, okay. Yeah, I mean, that should be a pretty fast thing, but I'd like to update everything to build on the latest. I don't know if that'll make any differences or not, but I just, nice to be up to date. Google Play V2. All ticket skins are gone. Okay, shoot. Yeah, send me... If you could do another send info, do like send info ES. I get a lot of send infos. Some people like send them without announcing, and so like some of them get ignored or whatever. But yeah, if you can do that again, I can try to take a look and see if I can find anything. But yeah, if possible, if it would be possible for us to switch the GitHub action to use community, like I'd be in favor of that because most people, running the actual game are going to be on community, but I have a feeling they probably just have enterprise by default, just to be fancy and stuff. Can ChatGPT help make mods for Bomb Squad? I don't think it would know Bomb Squad's API at all, if anything. They always keep saying that ChatGPT was trained in 2021, I think. So it doesn't have any knowledge of stuff newer than that. And so, there's been a lot of changes in the Ballistica API and everything, especially with the 1.720 update recently that moved everything around. So I don't think ChatGPT would be able to really help. Even if it knew the old API, it probably wouldn't be able to... it would probably give you some wrong information. That being said, like I love ChatGPT for random Python scripting questions, or for me actually it's Emacs. Like I'm still using Emacs as my editor, and Emacs uses like Lisp for its configuration and stuff like that, which is cool. I'd love to be able to I wish I knew Lisp better, but it's if you haven't used Lisp, it's super weird. There's just lots of parentheses and things. Like this is let's see if I can show you some stuff. Yeah, this is like me configuring the eglot code server, and yeah, just like writing little utility functions and things like that in Emacs is just weird with just so many parentheses. So I use Chat GPT all the time. Just like, how do I do this in Emacs? And it's super useful there. So there's a few things I've actually thrown in my Emacs config that are straight out of Chat GPT. So I find that, I don't know, in my experience, it's useful to just like ask it general questions, and it doesn't always give you accurate information, but I feel like it gives you stuff that's like close to accurate, even if it's sometimes hallucinated slightly or not 100% technically accurate. It at least like puts you on the right track. Where I'm more hesitant to ever try to do something like asking it to write a function and then like pasting that directly into my code and hoping it works, because to me that seems like setting yourself up for pain. Because one thing I've learned with coding over the years, and this is mostly just by like painful experience, is that like you really need to know exactly what your code is doing. If you copy paste code and it like, oh hey, it works, you're just gonna suffer later, because it's like it's gonna work for one thing, but 3 years down the line it's gonna break for some obscure reason, and then you have to spend like a day and a half trying to figure out why, because you never really like understood the code in the first place. So I've had that happen a number of times. So that's why I'm very hesitant to just paste code in without really like knowing what it's doing. Unless it's like, a library or something where it's, a lot of people are working on it or using it, and it's known to always work well. Like that super cool little C-based library for JSON, like CJSON. I just updated that recently. We use it here somewhere. It's where is it? Source Ballistica. Is it shared? Shared generic? Yeah, like JSON.cc and JSON.h, which is basically a slightly modified version of CJSON. So this is for like anywhere in Ballistica where there is code that is working with like JSON in the native layer. Like, so any C++ code that needs to do stuff with JSON is using CJSON, which is it's kind of neat. But most code actually that's using JSON and stuff is actually in the Python layer, and Python handles that all itself. So it's like the CJSON stuff is like less and less necessary, but there's still places that need it. On that note, maybe I will, or well, one sec, I'll catch up here first a bit more. Use a ballistic engine, make a build, but there seems on the tools build.py, I was looking for SDK files from Scode SDKs. It shouldn't be. By shouldn't be, I mean to say like I wouldn't want it to, but maybe it is. So yeah, if you do, let's go into tools, Ifro tools, or is that Ballistica tools? Might be. On that random side note, like you'll see, you probably think this is redundant. Like, why is there Ifro tools and BA tools? Like, the BA stuff is anything that is Ballistica specific, so anything for this project. Ifro tools is like that's the name of like my higher level stuff that I share between like all my different projects. So if something is in Ifro or Ifro tools, that means it's kind of like it's not specific to Ballistica or Bomb Squad or anything like that. It's just like some utility code that I've made for myself, and I can use it anywhere. But that also means like half the time I'm trying to remember, like, did I put that in BA tools or Ifro tools? It's like I don't know where my own stuff is. It's tricky to like organize things, because it's, some people are in favor of like having a flat hierarchy where it's just a crap ton of files and like one directory, and other people like to have like a ton of directories and lots of organization. And so I'm not sure where I fall on that, like somewhere in the middle. I feel like Bomb Squad 1.4 and like the older ones were more like the flat hierarchy thing, where there's just like, a single file with everything in it, or, probably took that stuff too far in some cases. But now I've done more like splitting things out into their own directories. But anyway, getting off on a tangent here, I was looking for build. Maybe it's project build now? PyBuild. There's PyBuild. That's basically for building Python libraries for iOS and Android. Oh yeah, duh. batools.build. So there might be stuff in here that, let's just search for Xcode. Uh, there probably are things in here that deal with Xcode, but if you're, working on Linux or something, that shouldn't be. I mean, I'm not saying too much in here, but if you're running into, something that is trying to talk to Xcode or whatever, like you should never be required to have Xcode to work with Ballistica stuff. So if you're running into a wall there, like definitely let me know because I want to fix that. Um, if you're trying to build like the Mac version, or if you're working on a Mac, then yeah, it might talk to Xcode. But uh, anyone running on Linux or under Windows using was it the Linux runtime for Windows or whatever Linux runtime. Ugh. I've been fishing too long. I'm forgetting all these terms. But anyway, you shouldn't need Xcode stuff. Oh, you're running it on Mac, on my friend's Mac. Oh, well, if you are on Mac, then yeah, it probably, because when you install Xcode on Mac, it also installs a lot of stuff like the compiler, like if you're looking for like which CC is always like the compiler, like user bin CC. So stuff like that I think doesn't exist on Mac unless you have Xcode installed. Or there's certain things like that. So you probably do need to get Xcode installed if you're using a Mac um, for certain things. I actually haven't done a test like what actually you can do on a Mac without having Xcode, because theoretically like you might be able to do some stuff, but most things the prerequisites, like the little like Unix tools and Python tools that it has you install, like some of those might require Xcode themselves. So my assumption is, to be safe, like if you're doing anything on a Mac, you probably need Xcode. Um, but again, not 100% certain on that. What I was saying is looking for the SDK in application. I mean, if you can show me a specific error or a specific line or something like that where it's looking for an SDK that doesn't exist, I can give you a better answer. But I'm not sure offhand. Sorry, I keep saying notes about like what I'm missing and stuff. I'm like, what am I missing? How many programming languages do you know? A handful. I mean, most of my work these days, like probably like 90% of my work in the last few years, or maybe a little less than 90, but has been Python, just because so much of Ballistica is Python. And so much of like, especially the server stuff, because a lot of my work has been, trying to get this server stuff working better. And that's basically all Python. Um, so yeah, but I mean, I've learned, I know like C and C++ and Python. I knew Perl back in the day. Some other weird scripts like Mel script for Maya, which is basically dead at this point, or Mel script is like you can use Python and Maya, and I don't know. I've dabbled in like other languages, but like most of my work these days is like C or C++ or Python, I would say. Or I've done enough like shell scripting to get by, or Lisp or a little bit, but I don't feel like I know those languages. Oh, Swift. I've done a bit of Swift for Apple stuff. Um, it'd be fun to I don't know, play with some of the newer languages like Rust. Like that'd be cool just to get parallelization and all that. Mel. Yeah, it's funny. Like the Maya's scripting language used to be called Mel, which stood for Maya Embedded Language. But you can see here's the one bit of, this is my internal version of the repo, but yeah, Ballistica Maya Tools.mel. So no pun intended. Um, but these are, yeah, Mel script, basically it was like this unholy combination. It looked sort of like shell scripting, but sort of like C. I don't have syntax. Let me see if I can, okay, I'll do C mode. It kind of highlights it a little bit better. But yeah, there's all this stuff where like variables had dollar signs before them, so it looks sort of like shell scripting, and these weird little backticks looks like shell scripting. But some of the stuff looks like C. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've done any Mel, but yeah, it had some like weird quirks. So I'm glad I'm glad they're not really using it anymore. Will Bomb Squad's rendering engine ever upgrade to Vulkan? I would hope so. As I was mentioning earlier, I was showing the GL version. That's not a high priority thing on my to-do list, but I would love to kind of like abstract and clean up the rendering engine a little bit so we could make a Vulkan version. I might make a Metal version first. Metal is very similar to Vulkan. It's one of those like newer low-level graphics APIs. I feel like making any of those versions would be good for me because it would give me like an opportunity to kind of like abstract the engine a bit more in a more modern way, and make it more friendly to writing engines. So I feel like if I made like an example of a Metal renderer, then it wouldn't be too hard to translate that to a Vulkan renderer or Direct 3D or whatever other APIs are out there that I'm not remembering. But I think, as I mentioned, some of that is on me to like clean this stuff up because the render engine is abstracted. Like if you're writing like a node or something in C++, like you never actually make OpenGL calls. There's always there's this render abstraction layer. It's a matter of we just need to like implement that in Vulkan or in something else. Right now, the only implementation is OpenGL. So that's all lives under Ballistica Base, Graphics, Renderer, or is it? Oh, GL, yeah. So again, like basically this file is basically the entire OpenGL renderer, or most all of it. So, it's like 6,000 lines of code, a bit ugly, but basically, yeah, we just need to make a Vulkan version of that.
Yo bombers, so this is Bomb Squad iOS confidential third attempt. Now we're gonna open Bomb Squad on iOS. This is an iPad, my dad's iPad, and this is Ballistica Kit. Zoom in. This is Ballistica Kit. So now I'm gonna open it after all the shits we have done to install it and sideload it, verify it. Now I'm gonna open it after so many years of waiting. Oh, no. It works. I already tried it, but
there it is.
For the video, for the content. So
1724.
With Bomb Squad, the classic one, 1.7.24 version, and this is the classic Bomb Squad. Now we can try to join some servers. I don't know. First one, hi. These are my servers if you wanna try. We had kids, cool server, good comments, and we got also Live Soccer too. Competitive game with some pro, but now it's full, so I can join it now. That's all. This is Bomb Squad iOS Confiance, our third attempt because the other two failed and stuff like that. So that's it. Potato!
Super cool. I'm curious, like what did you have to do to get that running? Because my assumption was I was basically building it, sticking on the server. I just do that so I have an easy way to like test on my iPad and iPhone just to kind of make sure the iOS version is still sort of working, even though it's not polished or ready for release. But I assumed that like you probably had to like re-sign it or something like that, or did you have to do something crazy to get it to run? So there's always a lot of security with all the mobile stuff in terms of like packages have to be signed but with the right certificate and provisioning profiles and all that fun stuff. Okay. Cool. Well, that's awesome you got it going. I mean, yeah, that sounds like it was a bit of work. I would like to do new soundtracks. Like, I mean, for one, if I can find better versions of some of those, like I like some of the songs, but there's a few versions of the songs that are not high quality. Especially now, 10 years later. I mean, in some cases, I was okay with that. Like 10 years ago, when Android phones were a lot crappier, and people were playing on just crappier devices in general. But it'd be cool to. I know I've talked about like doing like an HD pass on some of the graphics just to, make the textures sharper if nothing else. Looks like I'm just like just going at that coffee. But yeah, it'd be fun to do something similar on the audio, is like get nicer versions of some of the music, or just like turn up the bit rates and stuff too. Uh, like the OGG compression settings are probably not super high, so I think they might be like 64 kilobytes per second or something. So we could probably notch that up to like 128 or whatever. I'm still, it's kind of nice to keep the game size down. I think it's still at like 60 megs or something for the Android APK, which is, kind of nice in terms of then people can download it quickly, and, it gets lots of downloads and stuff that way. So I don't want to like make it too big. Um, but that's also something where the asset stuff for 1.8 might help too, because then certain things could maybe just be downloaded like as you need them, or, if like you join a server, it'll download what it needs from that server and stuff. So maybe there's things we can improve there. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've always I like the classical sort of thing. I kind of did that. I mean, one, because there's a lot of free classical music, but two is I grew up, watching like Looney Tunes cartoons like Bugs Bunny and stuff like that, where it's just like zany characters doing crazy things, and they always had like classical music in the background. It was just kind of like this fun like silly mix. So I kind of copied that, or it was inspired by that, I should say. Greetings. Well, if you play against me on any, if we play during streaming here, you'll probably destroy me because we usually play on like European servers, and not that I'm like amazing anyway, but having that extra lag, I never do great. But it's fun. Well, also plus I'm like trying to talk and stuff too, and so I feel like my brain is like multitasking and doesn't work well. I'm usually like throwing sock off a ledge when we're supposed to be in a co-op match or something. Who still remembers a button on Gather that had Google Play icon? Yes, there was that. Well, not on the Mac version here, but yeah, there was. I had to kind of revamp that at some point. There was a Google Play icon that it was using some kind of Google functionality that would let you connect to your friends. So I had to kind of replace that with like private servers and things once Google eventually deprecated that. Uh, as Google is known to do sometimes. They deprecate some of their tech. Um, so, but it's good. It's like I've been slowly moving towards running stuff on my own servers and things like that, which is it's better than having the Google Play stuff was neat, but the downside was it only worked with the Google Play version. So if someone's playing on Linux or someone's playing on Mac or PC, like they wouldn't have been able to play together. So whereas if everything is just generic and running on my servers, then like everyone can play together. So that's better. It's just more work. Special topics today. There's a few things I was going to go over, but so far it's just been talking randomly, I guess, as you say. Uh, let's see. I can go over a thing or two. Let me hide my goofy server window that's always getting in the way. One thing. So as I was up near Canada, up in Minnesota for a week and a half, visiting family, like kind of what I've done the past few years is I'll work a little bit while I'm there because I have a bit of time. It's not all. Sometimes I'll like go there for a few weeks or something and then spend part of my time working, which is it's a nice upside of working for myself, is that I can kind of work from other places. But I also kind of usually do kind of not silly things, but kind of tangential things or little things that I can work on for like an hour at a time without having to like get too into it. So my little goofy project for this year was spinning up P command. So some of you might have seen some stuff about this. So if you're not familiar, I'll just ramble a little bit about this. So what P command is it's just kind of a way to run little snippets of Python. So if you come in here, local docs ballistica. Here, I'll just open this. All right, so here's the GitHub Ballistica repo, just the same one everyone has. So P command lives under tools. So tools P command. Oh no. What did I just do? Oh, somehow I like moved the file. I didn't realize dragging while I have... Oh, Emacs. Okay, anyway. So here's pcommand. Pcommand is really nothing but a Python script. You can see if you come into here, it's just a Python script that imports all these little functions from these different places. So importing blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, it runs this little magic thing that basically runs one of these functions based on the arguments you give it. So if you just do tools, pcommand by itself, it just prints a list of all those things and like their documentation and stuff. But then you can also do like tools, pcommand, upper, foo. And that's basically just taking what you give it and printing it uppercased. So basically pcommands are just little like utility commands. And they're used all over the project. Like the make file calls a bunch of these to like, compile Python files or install piprex or compile a collision mesh, things like that. And so one thing that's been a bit of a problem is that when you do a full build of the game, it runs like a bajillion pcommands, and each pcommand has to spin up like Python, and that only takes like a fraction of a second usually, but if you're running thousands of them, it takes a little while. I love it. So my little vacation hobby project was trying to speed up pcommand, and so what I wound up doing is... So I wrote this little thing called pcommand batch, which is just like it basically spins up a little server in the background. And then it, instead of spinning up Python for each pcommand, it basically just submits a little request to that server. And so then the server can like run all those pcommands really fast. And basically the end result is that like builds go faster. So I mentioned this I mentioned this in chat a few days ago, but if you come in here and you do like make pcommand batch speed test, this will just kind of like compare the two. So it's building pcommand. So it's testing the Python script version, like the regular pcommand. And now it's testing the batch version. Why is that going slow? I'm doing a demo, so naturally it's going to like fail. Okay, let me try that again. I need to look into what just happened there. That was epically terrible. Okay, that's more like it. I'm really curious what happened there. Something must have like locked up. But yeah, it runs like 5 times faster, which means... So I'm going to do make clean. Make clean basically like blows away everything in this directory that's not from the GitHub repo. So this is just like resetting to a completely empty state. And then if I just do like make... Let's see what would be the fastest thing. Make prefab GUI release build. So this is going to go from like 0 to, like building a prefab version of the game. I don't have a comparison here, but it runs a lot faster now, basically, is the thing. So it's downloading assets now, decompressing, building everything. So this is what's using like pcommand batch. So all this like extracting and building and compiling assets, like this stuff should be a lot faster now for you guys. Maybe all the like background network traffic and stuff happening here is like slowing this down, but usually this is faster. Okay, anyway, so I didn't have a comparison, but for me it's about like 3 times faster now to like build from scratch than it was before. So hopefully it is for you guys too. But yeah, if you let me know if you're running into weird like build errors or anything like that with the new pcommand stuff. But so that was my nerdy little vacation project. One kind of fun thing, going back into programming languages for a second, is that I wrote the whole thing in just like low-level C. So the pcommand batch, the binary, which is the little thing that basically all it does is it like sends a request to the pcommand server. That is just a little thing written in C code. So if you go to source, tools, pcommand batch.c. So this was kind of a fun little experiment of just like limiting myself to regular C, like no C++ stuff. And it was interesting, and it makes for like a really fast compile and a really fast little thing to run, but it's, oh man, C is kind of, I don't think I'd like to write in C all the time because it's just like you have to deal with all the manually freeing everything, and if you change something, you gotta keep track of like, did I free that memory? Or it's yeah, it's clean and simple and powerful, but it's also just like feels a little scary. It's like I probably have some bugs in here, but anyway, so that's my random little show and tell what I've been up to. All right, I'm missing all these cool images here. Let's get back to this stuff. Yeah, so explain what this is. This is just like a smooth version of the head. Is this all like, is there like ray tracing involved in some of those or something? Or yeah, like this? Possible graphics, Vulkan RT over OpenGL. Yeah, I mean ray tracing. No matter like what is doing the ray tracing, like ray tracing is awesome. So I would love to. That's another reason I'd love to like abstract the graphics engine so that we could do like a super badass ray traced renderer. You know, even if we're for our silly little simple meshes and things like that would look super cool. If you have like a super sweet PC setup that could handle that sort of thing. Or if we ever get it, if I ever get time to get the game ported to like PlayStation or something like that where it like has a ton of horsepower available, then we could have a fancy renderer. It's kind of an interesting approach. Is just like keeping the game graphically simple, but then like throwing a really fancy renderer on top of it. So it's like we're not trying to render like crazy high poly, super complicated scenes. Like it'll still be sort of simple, but we could just use all that horsepower to like make it look really sweet with bounce lighting and reflections and whatever else. Like that'd be fun. Check out the video. The murmur. Oh yeah, you were mentioning the console connection thing. Yeah, I do need to look into that. So I will. I can't right at the moment, but maybe I'll try to see if I can find some time this afternoon to take a look at that. I do want to fix that. I do want console connections and everything to be 100% like bulletproof. That's a very like basic part of the game at this point. For being able to do like squads mode and online play. So like that stuff needs to be super super bulletproof. Oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. There's been no roadmap sequel today. That's weird. Is it something because of like the 3 week delay? Like maybe we don't have like new people or something? Bomb Squad parody. I feel like it would be fun to script this stuff. Like, the goofy expressions the characters make, like if we could like script them or something or make like little interactive, not interactive, but like it'd be fun to make a little like story scene or something. Just like dialogue with raised eyebrows at the right times and things like that. It's like do you ever, maybe this is dating myself, but like the red versus blue stuff people did or someone did back in the day with like Halo, just turning it into little episodes. Joke of marrying Sock. Wait, did I miss a joke? Was there a joke about marrying Sock? Oh man, I feel like I missed so much stuff. I'm not marrying Sock, by the way, if that was the joke. How far up? Up is a very... All right, I give up. Yeah, who's marrying Sock? Someone's marrying Sock? Oh, that's very sweet. Yeah, sometimes yeah, deciding not to fix. Sometimes bugs are just funny. You got to leave some funny bugs in. All right. Let me see if, on that note, let's see if there's anything else I wanted to cover this week. Um, I'll take a look at the change log of what I've been up to, see if this jogs my memory. So I went over pcommand batch. Again, if you run into any problems with pcommand batch, let me know. But hopefully this will, make some things faster for some of you. We can always just turn it off globally if it causes problems. But it was fun to write. It was a fun little just like experiment in writing like a server daemon. And then yeah, I would say the Android keyboard stuff is kind of the biggest thing. So let me know if you have any bad or good experiences with Android keyboards now. Hopefully working better than before. Um, I mean, it seems like Android is kind of getting generalized to where like it's almost a PC operating system, or people are almost expected to be able to use Android stuff on PC. So it's almost like I just want to get it working like in all situations. TV, PC, tablet, phone. Anything that runs Android. It'd be cool to have it like behave as naturally as possible. There's still some differences, like if you're running an Android tablet with a keyboard attached versus running like the PC version of the game. But I'd love to, minimize those differences, or make them basically identical at some point. Oh, that does remind me. There was some chatter about UI scale, like setting UI scale manually. I'll have to look into that because one thing that's actually, or I'll have to respond to that in terms of like how it's possible to do. It's still possible to do that if you set an environment variable. You can run the game at like different UI scales, which is good to do if you're modding, because it's good to test. Like even if you're just modding on a PC, it's good to like test phone scale, and there's basically three scales right now. It's like small, medium, large, um, and it's good to test your UIs and things like that in all three scales just to make sure that your stuff doesn't like break horrifically on like a phone. Even if you test it on a PC, it make sure it still works on a phone reasonably, or vice versa. Um, and yeah, it'd be good to be able to, at some point, I want to make it possible to easily switch that from within the game. But right now, you basically have to like restart the game with the environment variable to get it to switch. I feel paralyzed. Whoa. What? Ugh. Cool. All right, well, that seems like that does basically the same thing, which is awesome. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right. So yeah, check out that mod if you want a way to, like, if you're running on Android, because that's one thing that sucks is, there's a lot of configuration stuff in the game which is based on environment variables. If you don't know, environment variables are like a little Unixy thing. You know, like if you come into a terminal here, you do env, like this will show you all the environment variables that are set. So hopefully there's nothing sensitive there. But so so in that case, I'll do make cmakes. This is just going to build the game and run it. Burp, burp, burp. So an easy way to like set an environment variable is just, instead of do make cmake, you do like ba do awesome stuff equals 1 make cmake, and this will run that with this variable set. So I forgot the name of the variable. It's like ba ui scale or something. Ba ui scale equals small. That is just a guess. I probably got it wrong. Oh no, I got it right. Cool. So see, that's UI scale small. Um, yeah, there's, I think, small, medium, large. This is, yeah, large is, it's kind of a, it's almost a misnomer in a way because large means that everything is small. Large just means like you're running it on a large device, like a PC or something. Small means you're running it on phone. Medium is like a tablet. Um, but yeah, the normal way is this environment variable. But yeah, like mods like that, that's another cool way to do it. I am currently working on kind of trying to come up with a nice unified way to be able to set stuff like that that would work for Android people. Through Cloud Console or something like that. Basically, something that could kind of replace environment variables, but also maybe still would work with environment variables. So I don't know. Stay tuned on that, but I'd like to come up with something there. But in the meantime, yeah, mods like this will do it, or environment variables will do it. And yeah, suggestions. Way to achieve inline terminal for mobile. Oh, like you mean like bring up the terminal like on the Android version? Uh, that actually gets me. I'm curious. When I got to test something here. Now that the Android version should detect keyboards. What is this error? No, there's not an error. Run it. Bad Android Studio. I'm curious if the tilde key works because now if it detects the device as a keyboard, that should mean that maybe tilde key is working. We'll see. Moment of truth. Aha! Okay, so yes, there's the Android version. So if you have a hardware keyboard, you should be able to bring down the in-game console. But we could make that better. Like if it would ever be useful, we could have a way to actually just bring it down with some GUI control or something. But yeah, and then scalable cloud console log and editor. Yeah, half and half does suck, which is true. Yeah, that's that's just something I should write at some point. I mean, the little like cloud console, it's kind of like this, not hacked together, but it's this very kind of simple thing I just coded myself. I'm not using any fancy framework like Angular or something, so I just need to code like a resize widget. I'll show you what I mean there. So if you come in here, devices, okay, I found the game, come into console here. So I assume you mean this, like being able to like resize this up and down. Oh yeah, in-game console is probably pretty bad. I mean, in general, I'm hoping that more people will be able to use stuff like this, like the web-based stuff, just because we get things like syntax highlighting and stuff like that. Equals 5 for I in range 10. Whoops. So, it's generally like if you have access to a web browser, you're going to get all of like the nicer editor features and tab auto indenting and things. So like, trying to write meaningful code on the in-game console here is probably not a great idea. Plus, it doesn't even. I mean, if anyone wants to like improve it, feel free. It doesn't even have like you can't even like go back. You can only like delete. There's no like left-right key support, stuff like this. So it's super primitive. I mean, it gets the job done, but it's not something I would use for anything like meaningful. Also, but that does remind me, I probably should maybe make that console behave differently on different UI scales. Because yeah, on a phone, that's something where it'll show up. I think that will show up always at the same scale. So like if you're running on a phone, that's going to be unusably tiny, unless you have a crazy high res phone. But even then, like that's going to be bad. We would probably want this to be like a third of that size, or 3 times that. We'd want the text to be like 3 times bigger. So if someone wants to make those changes, like that probably wouldn't be too hard to do. That would just be in, would that be source, Ballistica, base, where's the console live? Support? No, maybe that, oh, input? That's one of those weird, like that, the GUI, the in-game terminal, it's like one of those weird things where I never know like where it should live. Because it's sort of like input, but it's also sort of graphics. But so it's around here somewhere. So if you find that file, then you could edit it. Or UI. Oh, console. Aha, there it is. So it's not actually too crazy. It's basically just this thing. How much code is this? 400 lines of code. So it's a bit, but I mean a lot of that is just like these graphical things, just drawing things. So you could probably come in here and just find values like console size, line limit, whatever, and just have change some code so like these limits were different based on the screen size the game is running at, making them like somewhat reasonable for phones. So anyway, or maybe I'll do that at some point if I get to it. But there's a lot on my to-do list, so that probably won't be super high priority. Okay, what are we looking at? Burp, burp, burp. There he goes with the coffee again. He's out of control, that guy. When I play, I have lag. Yeah, lag is... Unfortunately, the current version does suffer from lag. It doesn't have like client prediction and things like that. Here, I'll go ahead and... Feel free to speak. We'll see if I... I'll have to... There's been a few times when like, I invite people to speak and they keep speaking or can't understand them or something. I feel bad. So it's like sometimes typing is better. But if you do want to speak again, like I do want to encourage anyone to speak if you'd like. Level. I don't know anything about photo upload stuff. That's a good question. Oh yeah, let's do it. So yeah, how about maybe plan on next week? We haven't done any like playing in a bit, so I'd be totally down. Like I said, it might be iffy on my running Wi-Fi. I'll still be on Wi-Fi here for the next week or two. Maybe two. Yeah, maybe in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, we should totally do it. Recover your account. It's been 5 years since you last logged in. Hey Aaron, by the way, how you been? Uh, yeah, I think I saw your mail. I haven't like responded. What's your like? What kind of login is it? I mean, maybe this would be better to take offline. I'll try to respond to you, but I'll see what I can do. I don't think it would be deleted. It would just be a matter of like maybe sometimes it's weird with like depending on how you're logging in. Like Google Play logins, it's super frustrating. At some point, like Google changed all the IDs for Google Play logins, so someone would be like keep logging in with the same Google Play ID, but suddenly they would have or someone would keep logging in with the same Google Play account, but then like suddenly they would have a different ID. So when my server gets that, my server like thinks it's a totally different person. So I know that's resulted in some people like losing their account because suddenly the server is seeing a different account ID for them. Um, so I'm hoping that's not a widespread thing, or I'm wondering maybe that's what happened to you. But I could check into it, see if there's something that can be done. Because yeah, I don't. In general, the game doesn't delete too many accounts. It does, like the newer one, you can request to have your account deleted and it'll delete it, but like older accounts shouldn't be deleted usually. Um, I need to start having it automatically delete some of the newer accounts, but only like accounts that have not been used at all. Like people that like sign into the game, play for 10 seconds and then quit. Like I would want to delete that account after a while. just because it's using up database space. Um, and if there's like millions of those, that starts to add up. I'm actually curious. Let's see how many V2 accounts we have at this point. Like, there's been a lot made, but accounts. We're up to, okay, 5,525,000 basically. So that's cool. Um, Still lots of them getting made. Let's see what this guy. Legal. You can always tell when they have like the automatically generated account names. Like legal. This was probably something longer and then it got concatenated. Do I play tournaments? Not too much. I mean, I test them. I play them for testing. So like that's the one time you'll probably see me in a tournament is like when I'm testing something. I'll jump into like a meteor shower tournament and just make sure things are working. Um, but I don't often like play competitively. I know I mentioned this before, but like my one of my goals for the game going forward is like I want to get it to the point where I feel good about playing online, like I'm enjoying it and I'm not just noticing bugs and problems and things. Um, that's more about like online multiplayer, like real time multiplayer, not like tournaments where it's just scores. But yeah, that kind of applies to tournaments too. Is like I want to get things to the point where I can play online multiplayer and I'm happy. So not there yet, but working towards it. Bomb Squad Esports win. That's another thing. I'd love to. I mean, I hope that's all in the same, like getting squads mode and fixing lag problems and all that stuff. Like I want to get it to the point where people can use it for esports competitions and stuff more easily and things. So that's kind of another big goal that I have like for the game is like I'd love to be able to like go to some competition where there's like a Bomb Squad game happening or something. That'd be super cool. I'll fly to Switzerland or wherever. If you're having a Bomb Squad competition, I'll be there. Okay, yeah. If you have a global username, I can try to take a look. I might be able to look that up in the database. Hopefully, maybe that's still there. I can see. That also reminds me. Oh my gosh, I've been procrastinating on this for a while, but I need to very soon. I need to probably take a few weeks and just work on getting the V1 master server updated. Because I've mentioned this to some of you before, but Google has basically deprecated the old Python 2.x server runtime that the V1 master server is using. So that will stop being updatable for me as of 2024. So I'm down to what, 3 months now, uh, or 3 or 4 months. So or yeah, what? It's almost September. So I have September, October, November, December. Yeah. So down to 4 months. So I should probably try to get that done before before I'm out of time. So I have time to like make a graceful transition or fix the old server if things break or whatever before I move everything to the new server, um, or be able to like fall back to the old server because it's going to be one of those things where hopefully everything will just keep working how it is, but I'm sure it's going to be a bit of work. I was originally wanting to avoid that by moving everything to like the V2 system, but that's just not there yet. It's like like the old V1 tournaments and stuff like that. I don't have time to like re-implement those in the V2 server. And plus, basically I want to kind of replace those with like squads mode and squads mode tournaments and things like that. So it's like I don't want to like rewrite the old style tournaments. I just want to keep them working as long as possible. But that means I need to spend a few weeks like updating all the old code to Python 3 so that it can continue to run. So that'll be a not very fun few weeks. So if you see me just looking very sad for 2 or 3 weeks, that you'll know why. Yeah, this goes back into it would be definitely a different vibe if like Bomb Squad had like its own original soundtrack. It's almost this not pop culture, but using like classical stuff that people have heard. It's almost this sort of it's like how Quentin Tarantino uses music in his movies that people are familiar with. The song they heard before, but it's kind of interesting paired up with a certain random Tarantino scene. So I do feel like it would be a different feel. Not that that's bad. I mean, we could do that sometime, but it would be kind of sort of like we're saying like the Tron glow look, like that would be a fun thing to do, but that would also be a different feel. So maybe we could combine those. So we can do like the Tron glow and then also have like original classical music with that, or just original, or maybe that would just be like electronic sort of music, like if you're doing the Tron stuff, I feel like you kind of got to do that. Um, anyway, random talk on that stuff. Burp, burp, burp. Um, but this also like again, I'm trying to, as I mentioned before, I'm trying to kind of treat this as not a single game, but as kind of like something that can evolve into other spin-off games, or mini games within the game that have different vibes or whatever. So um, so projects going forward or things like the AR version of Bomb Squad, or stuff like that, where it could be kind of like this weird little offshoot, and maybe it would have a little different vibe, or it could have its own soundtrack, or a different style of music, or a different graphical style, or something. So who knows? But within the context of like Bomb Squad itself, like classical Bomb Squad that we're all used to, it would be weird to have, to like go off in a different direction midway. Not, I mean, it's weird to call it midway because the game's been out for 10 years now, 11, 12, whatever it is. Um, so yeah, and I will try to I'll check on the database for you, see if the global profile is still there. Hopefully, try to fix it and do PR soon. Merp. Doing like links up to links up to links. Bug in the flag, by the way, I reported. Oh, yeah, is that something? Well, you said you could maybe do a PR for it or something. Like that would be cool. Or just point out to me if I missed it, what the bug is and how to fix it, or maybe it's obvious. I know Cokex. Yeah, name sounds familiar. I think so. Adding transparency for the button in game. Oh, you mean like the overlays for the touchscreen? Yeah, that could be. I mean, I'd certainly be fine with having that be an option. I mean, there is already like that ugly configure screen for the touchscreen controls, so we could just add. That could be another somewhat simple PR if people wanted to make it, just like a transparency controls for the online on-screen controls. I haven't thought about it, but it certainly could be fun. It's one of those things where I just made it, years ago for the Easter thing, and I haven't really like revisited it. But if someone wants to, make a more fun one, like I'd be happy to, accept a PR for that or something potentially. Um, yeah, I know. This keeps coming up too, and I keep. This is something I've thought about recently. Is it kind of wraps a few things together. Is one, I need to update the Android remote app because it's using an old Android API, and I think they will pull it off the store if I don't update it at some point in the next few months. Which that'll take like 10 seconds to update the API because nothing breaks or whatever. But that also gets me thinking is that I know I've mentioned I'd love to update the Bomb Squad remote, to actually use the engine, like to use the whole like Ballistica spin-off thing and basically make something that's actually the engine, but is just, the remote app, just like a cooler looking version of it. And then we could start to do, like more fun ideas for maybe like different styles of online button or on-screen buttons or more customizations or something like that. Like that could be a fun little rabbit hole to go down for like a month. Is just going crazy with on-screen controls and Bomb Squad remote and stuff like that. Because yeah, it could be neat to just have different styles, like a wireframe style, or some like clean technical looking style as opposed to like the kind of clay style that's there now. I sort of think like the clay style might look a little bit weird, transparent. It'll sort of look like a physical thing, but it'll be like a weird transparent physical thing. I almost feel like at that point, like maybe, although I guess that's just, I guess the actual game does have like the flat, more technical style. I'm thinking of the remote app where it has like the, the clay style. But yeah, like unifying all that stuff, that could be fun. Uh, Possible to create bomb squad server with MySQL server. I mean, you can make a server talk to MySQL, like it's just Python code, so it can do whatever. I know a lot of people have done stuff like that, like they have databases of player scores and things like that, player stats. So so yeah, that's definitely something that is doable. Um, yeah, PRs. I mean, if you have stuff like, if you're not a super Git pro, and I feel like most people aren't super Git pros. Um, like my suggestion is this lovely little GitHub desktop app for grabbing stuff on GitHub, changing stuff. I assume doing PRs and stuff, pull requests with the app is probably pretty easy. Um, I haven't tried it, but that would be my suggestion. If you want to like fix a script or something like that, just grab GitHub desktop and see if you can make a PR. Um, I know I'm kind of bad about letting them build up for a few weeks, but I'll try to get to the. There's 5 or 6 built up right now. I'll try to get to those soon. I'm so rich that is what. For one, Uh, I'm not super rich, but yeah, my WhatsApp for some reason is gold. It's like the desktop version for Mac. Um, but so yeah, there it is. Burp. Maybe it does. Yeah, like some animation-y stuff, I guess. I don't know. Windows has some animations too, like, or at least it used to. Maybe they've minimized it. Everything like it's funny how everything goes in. There's like different styles that come in and out. Back in 2001, everything was just like candy colored and like skeuomorphic. And now everything is like flat, but it's still like animations are big and. Implicit code flag is not mesh data, so how to attach the flag to spaz? I mean, you would have to, in the spaz node, there's code that talks to the renderer that renders meshes, for his different body parts. And in the flag node, you'll see there is code that talks to the renderer to render a pull and to render like the dynamic flag mesh. So you would basically just have to, I don't want to say copy and paste, but you'd have to add more renderer calls in the spaz node to do the dynamic mesh part. But it basically would be taking what the flag node does and doing it in spaz. Um, it would be a bit of work, but it would be doable. But yeah, the transparency, like that does sound like a good idea. So like honestly, if anyone wants to do that, I think it would be pretty simple. Like my suggestion would be basically just track one of the existing things. Let's see, I will launch the Android version again here because that's the easiest to do. Um, like usually when I want to add like an option to a UI or something, that's the technique I usually do is find something that's there already and then just search for it and add a new thing like right under it, so you can kind of like track where it goes like all through the system. Um, all right, Android Studio, are you going to complain this time or run? Oh yeah, it's running. Okay. Close everything there. Okay, I will go ahead and run it the right way here. But yeah, I've come to settings, controllers, configure touchscreen. So we could just add another option. Yeah, I feel like action control scale. Basically, if you wanted to add like action control opacity or transparency, um, you could basically just look for action control scale and follow that like all through the pipeline. So, you just add another control here and save that in the same way that this gets saved. And then the code that's drawing these things, it has to look at that scale value somewhere. So just have it look at the opacity value. Um, Yeah, it should be, pretty simple. I mean, it looks like when in this mode, like in the edit mode, like this is probably just scaling opacity up and down real fast anyway. Or maybe it's scaling color, I'm not quite sure, but so it's probably doing, yeah, maybe that's color because it looks like it's going from like black to red. Or maybe it's everything. But anyway, yeah, I feel like that wouldn't be too hard to do. And then, obviously wire up reset to also reset that stuff too. But I think it probably wouldn't be too big of a deal. All right, thank you, Android Studio. Yeah, I'd love to add more sports game modes. This goes back to the thing where like I haven't, I do want to get the game migrated to squads mode, and so I haven't been like adding stuff to the game, like squads mode and downloadable assets, and like the new kind of cloud based world. So like once I get a foothold in there, and once I get things like running on servers and people doing squads mode and stuff, um, then I hope to just start adding more mini games and things at that point because it won't be like I won't have to like rewrite them at that point. Once everything is working in the cloud stuff, then it hopefully that can just be like okay, that's working. Let's add more content kind of thing. Good font. Do Bomb Squad characters rely on active ragdolls? Yeah, I mean they do, and that's maybe something I would want to change a little bit in the future. But yeah, they are. Bomb Squad characters are all like full time ragdolls. Like every character is being simulated at all times. It's most games it's like you're an animated character with like pre baked animation scenes and something an animator made, and then when you die it'll like flip you into ragdoll mode. Bomb Squad's a little different in that it is always in ragdoll mode. It's just the ragdolls are being manipulated in ways that make it sort of look animated. So like I said, like when your guy's running, it's basically just it's attaching a spring to his hand and it's like pulling his hand around, but it's still like the ragdoll. So it makes for some fun looks and things. It makes some stuff. It makes it kind of hard to animate that way, but it's it's kind of fun. But yeah, it is full time ragdolls. So. What would you change about them being fully ragdolly? I don't know. I feel like I would maybe experiment with some parts of them not being like I think full time ragdolly is good, but I guess the one thing is I would maybe experiment with that not always being like a part of the main physics simulation, if that makes any sense. Like how like a cape, or not a cape, but like the flags, those are sort of like simulated. But it doesn't actually affect anything, like it doesn't actually have any effect on the simulation. I would wonder if like some of the ragdoll stuff should be more like that way, where it's, at least like maybe like Zoe's hair, for instance, right now. That is actually part of the game simulation. So her hair can technically affect the game. It probably doesn't, but it technically could. So it just makes me wonder if there's cases like that where certain things maybe hands or feet or hair or something like that, if that should be still simulated, but like in a different layer, something where it's like it's not actually affecting the gameplay. That might come into play more with like client prediction because there'll be some fancier stuff happening there. So it might, we'll see what happens. But that's just kind of a thought I had. I do like the full-time simulation, like the ragdoll stuff, just because even though like sometimes it looks awkward or weird, it still like looks physicsy and, natural in a way, so I kind of like it. I kind of feel like when you see when you're watching a game and you see like an animation play, it's cool looking, but to me it always looks like an animation. It looks like something that someone made, and it's it's always the same too. It's like when you have like a cool punch animation, like yeah, it's cool punch animation, but it's like you don't really. It doesn't ever feel different. It just feels like okay, I'm watching. It's like you're watching a movie you've seen already. So that's my thought. I like the ragdoll stuff. It adds a little bit of flavor. Oh yeah, we were talking about this. Yeah, I think Sock. Someone was mentioning that like the idea of having animation on twos. Yes, it was you. Okay. Yeah, that would be an interesting look. I mean, it could be. I don't know. That could be fun to experiment with, and you could still like. If we were doing that, I would still probably have it simulated the way it's simulated, where it's like simulating every frame. or simulating 120 steps per second. That's currently what it does. But then maybe it would only like update the drawing position, on twos, or maybe 15 or 20 times per frame, or per second or something like that. So that could give it a bit more of like an animation look. It could be interesting. Um, as I mentioned, I went down a path originally, like years ago when I first started writing the engine. Is originally I had it render at 24 frames per second, which is what movies are doing, and then I basically just had it like render motion blur and stuff. So it would render the same frame like multiple times and blend that together. So it, even if it was rendering 120 frames per second, it would still like, you'd see like one frame that had like five or 10 frames kind of blended into it. So it wound up looking like kind of motion blur. So it was kind of interesting. But the problem was, I found that having only 24 frames per second, it added a lot of input lag. So it felt not as fun. Like, I know we have plenty of lag from network issues and things like that, but even playing locally, even if you had 24 super cool looking frames per second, it was still like, from a gameplay perspective, it wasn't good. So that's why at some point I just went to having it render everything at just a clean, non-blurred 60 frames per second, or whatever the device supports. But yeah, it was a really cool experiment, and it did look cool. Like the motion blurred 24 frames per second, it did kind of give it like a more almost like a stop motion movie sort of look. But like I said, it I feel like it hurt gameplay, so I didn't leave that. Um, Also, it was an interesting. That was way back before like the mobile version. That was actually like version 1 of the renderer. I think right now is like version 3 or something. I've rewritten the renderer a few times. Um, but yeah, the first version, it would basically just like render as many frames as it could in 1/24th of a second, and then just blur those together or combine those. And so you get some like cool anti-aliasing for free, because it would basically just be rendering again and again and again and again. So each frame that you would see would actually, sometimes on a fast computer, it'd be like 20 frames blended together. So, you get like motion blur and depth of field and some cool stuff like that kind of for free. The downside was that was basically like pushing the GPU to its limit. And when you're doing mobile stuff, you do not want to do that, because that will burn through battery in like an hour. So that was kind of when I rewrote the engine one of those times to kind of back off on that whole idea and just, try to be as simple as possible. Oh, that'd be interesting. It would be, yeah, like, something that's like stylized that, could look cool. I hope to. I mean, I'm definitely for Scene V2 or some of the upcoming stuff. I'm gonna have to split, or I definitely want to like split the spaz node out into something that's more digestible. Right now, if you go and look at the spaz node, it's grown a lot since it started, but that lives under Ballistica, Scene V1. So all the node stuff is under. Where is that? Oh yeah, node. And spaz node, it should be. So yeah, so here's the low-level C++ code. Some of you have seen this probably many times, but this is, whoa, what did I do? Oh wow, did I just kill Emacs? Oh, I did. I killed Emacs. But yeah, this huge monstrosity is what deals with both simulating and rendering spaz. So it's very unwieldy to work with, and there's lots of code in here. It's kind of grown a lot. Um, so I'd like to split this out and make this more maintainable, like maybe split the graphics part of it out from the simulation a bit. So then, people maybe could experiment with stuff like that, like the making something look more like animated on twos, or, the extremes, or just stylizing stuff in a way. But yeah, see, there's lots of just ugly hard-coded stuff in here, like hair tuft 1. Here we are dealing with, oh, I guess that's rendering. So this is rendering one of Zoe's hair tufts, or any character with hair tufts. Hair tuft 2, hair tuft 3, blah, 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 blah. So yes, there's a lot going on in the spaz code. That's why I'm a little, hesitant to change stuff too much now, because it's like the stuff works. I'm not going to touch it any more than I have to. But for scene v2, like where we're kind of reworking some stuff, it would be fun to kind of clean that up and generalize it. There's some stuff in there too where it's like there's things that are built into spaz, like drawing icons over his head and or like a character name and stuff. It would be great to like split those out and make those, so you could use that anywhere, like drawing that icon over the top of like a prop node or something, if you wanted to get more abstract. Roadmap Seagull. What did I miss? Ah, the new version of the game. Yeah, so there's the minor update from 4 hours ago, but again, that's not released to full Google Play yet. I still want to. There's one thing I'm working on. As mentioned down here. So yeah, this is very non-glorious, but it's something I need to do, and that is like clean up the app exit process. So when you quit the app, um, right now for largely it just drops what it's doing and exits, which is not great because there's certain cases where we want to be able to make sure that like the config file gets saved, and I mean I think it does like write the config file right now, but there's other things where like it would be nice to like sync cloud data up or different things like that, or just do a little bit more of a clean exit. I know if you're running on like Windows or Linux, it complains right now that like you didn't shut down the OpenAL context and stuff like that. So I'm trying to kind of clean this code up and make the game kind of clean up after itself a little bit more. So that's I want to try to finish that, and then maybe once that's done, maybe I'll release 1726. Which is it's not a huge update, but it has a few of these little cleanup bits in it. And then yeah, back to working towards 1.8 at some point. Though again, I'm going to unfortunately have to take a little break and work on V1 master server stuff, like getting that working in Python 3. So that's another. These are both kind of like non-fun but necessary things, like getting the app exit process cleaner and getting the old master server stuff working and new Python. So, yep. It's interesting with game development. It's like there's some of it that's really fun, like gameplay stuff is really fun, or just seeing it all come together. But there's also, like any job, I guess, there's boring parts where it's like, oh, now I just need to update my server code to a new version of Python and make sure it doesn't break and whatever. Oh, interesting. Yeah, this is something where if you can come up with a repro case or something like that, it's one of those things where the Scene V1 stuff and the existing gameplay stuff, like I probably won't be touching that until I do the Scene V2 stuff, and hopefully I'll try to make the Scene V2 stuff be more cleanly implemented, to where stuff like that hopefully won't happen. But if you want to dig around in the existing code or see if you can point out a clear case where it happens, we could try to clean that up. But like I said, to a degree, I'm just kind of like trying not to touch the Scene V1 stuff. Oh, like texture packs? So by texture packs, do you mean just something where like it would override a bunch of the stuff in the game, or what do you mean by texture packs? Or like modify existing stuff? Yeah, I mean, the asset packages certainly would let you. I mean, there would probably be like one asset package which is all the built-in stuff, so you could basically make your own version of that with like modified textures. It would just be a question of like how do we override the existing textures to use those? I mean, maybe we could make like an official way to do that. Um, that's a good question. Like that part is kind of open-ended, but the tech in terms of like you will be able to make an asset pack that has everything the game comes with by default, just like your own versions of it. And it would be super cool to be able to like override game assets with your own, and point other people at that, and so they could flip a switch and do the same thing. So we should try to get that in there somehow. That would be cool. I'm still like it'll be a little up in the air on terms of like how this will interact with. I mean, existing servers might not be able to do that, or maybe they will. That's a good question. We'll have to see. Because like full support for asset packages and downloads and stuff like that will probably be seen v2 or whatever. Because originally I was gonna try to backport all the existing stuff to instead of just directly loading assets to use asset packages, but it's one of those things where I feel like that would be a ton of work and that would probably break. It'd be something like it'd probably break a lot of servers. It would either break a lot of servers or it would be a ton of work to like cleanly support the old way plus that way. So I kind of feel like Scene V2 or like the wherever the game goes next will probably have the full asset pack download support kind of baked in. So you'll just have to kind of like slightly rewrite things for Scene V2 or something like that. But then the old stuff will continue working. But that also just means like the old stuff might not really be able to take advantage of asset packs. But maybe we could have something like a special case where like this is like a total conversion asset pack, which you could flag something as like the only thing this does is like replace the game's built-in assets, and that could be cool. So yeah, that is an interesting idea. Yeah, like letting people easily stylize servers. Again, that goes back to the like. I mean, this is a problem we'll have to figure out anyway. But like how to I don't know avoid getting in trouble from people doing copyrighted stuff or whatever. Just need to we'll need to have something in place for that. Like some sort of approval system or something where people aren't like sharing a ton of like copyrighted mods or at least, or if people do that in normal games, just doing whatever is necessary to make sure I don't have to like deal with lawyers and stuff. I want to code, not deal with lawyers. Gravity system, yeah, it would be fun to play with that. I mean, right now there's basically kind of a few hard coded things in there. It's just like happy thoughts mode kind of messes with gravity and stuff, and everything else is just normal. But we could certainly expose gravity as like a control on the globals node or something like that. The only thing is that we'd want to test things. So if you had low gravity, so that the characters just like function, it might be like they're like overcompensating and flipping around and completely unusable or something. Um, that seems to be always the case with physics stuff. Is like if you expose a control for it, like you need to make sure that things work with those controls. Well, here we are. We're about at 2 hours, so I should probably start wrapping up for the day. So anyone have any last questions or things that I missed we can go over? Otherwise, I will start closing out here. I'll make sure there's nothing else that I forgot to mention. Are the UI animations physics based? Some of them are like really simple spring systems, like that, like that scale. That's sort of like there's really simple like spring physics simulations happening there to like calculate that. That's not like animated. That's actually like a spring, or some of the windows coming in and wobbling. Like there's some of that is simple spring physics. It's not like the same physics simulator that the game is or anything like that. That I do like thinking about that idea though. Is like what if the whole UI was like built on top of like a cool physics simulator or something? We could have like weird, goofy, just like like windows like popping out of other windows, and but the whole thing shakes a little bit. Or I don't know if that would be like fun or worth doing, or just complicated and time consuming. But it would be kind of a fun thing to play with. There are some limitations right now though in the graphics engine though. Like it has to I can't actually like draw this window rotated because there's actually like a rectangle that the GPU knows about, like this clipping rectangle, and that rectangle can't be rotated. So I'd have to figure out a way to do that. Doing things like clipping the drawing of these tiles. I There's no way to like rotate that while keeping the clipping going. So having like a totally open-ended, like weird GUI system where things could like bounce around and rotate and scale and whatever, like that'd be awesome. But I'd have to rework some of the code for that. Um, but I have been thinking about that, especially like if thinking about like an eventual like AR version or something. It'd be cool to have stuff like in space doing weird things. Like graphical bits popping up, or like just I don't know, playing with VR or AR UIs. We'll see if any of that's fun. But anyway, I hope that answered your question. Oh, one other random thing on just something to keep an eye out for is as part of the I'm trying to clear up like the quit process as the game is exiting. So there's probably going to be more cases where you see like the quit window pop up. Let me know if that ever is broken or anything. Like I think before, I think when I hit the close button, this would just close the window immediately, but now it brings up the quit prompt. So if you run into any cases where the game is like refusing to quit or bringing up a quit prompt when it shouldn't be, or anything like that, let me know. That's kind of I'll let that bake, or I'll leave that out and wait to hear any complaints from people before I release 1726 officially. But that kind of goes back into this last part with like trying to clean up the exit stuff. I mean, you could try. Well, the normal quitting stuff is going through SDL. So SDL is like the system I use for like windowing and input and stuff. So I think SDL probably supports Alt F4. So if you try that, I imagine it will just pop up that confirm dialog. I'm guessing it's like on Mac now. If I go to Bomb Squad quit, that's like the same thing. Or if I do Apple Q or Command Q, it brings up the confirm dialog. So, oh yeah, and I guess it does it repeatedly. Yay. Voice chat. Well, this topic comes up occasionally, and for now, I'll just suffice it to say I don't have plans for it at the moment. I'm just going to leave that to like Discord and things like that, which is kind of what I use when I play with friends anyway, is Discord, just because then everyone is on the same page. But one of the limitation with voice chat is that, as far as I know, there's not like a single system that works everywhere. Maybe there is, but you have to pay for it maybe, and I don't know. I'd rather use something that's open source or easily accessible. And I want to avoid systems where it's like you can do voice chat, but only with people on Google Play or something like that. So it kind of seems like there's not a great solution for that right now. But if one appears, like I'd be happy to use it. But also, again, it's not a huge priority, just because I think people can hopefully usually use stuff like Discord for voice chat. Let's see. Updated on my. Oh yeah, totally, yeah. Definitely feel free. And no one kill me, please. Let's see. And there's LODs. I don't think there's probably too much of a need for LODs in Bomb Squad. I mean, LODs are great in like first-person shooters when you're looking at stuff from like miles away and then getting slowly closer to it. In Bomb Squad, it's mostly kind of just like a single view of stuff, so it's not as useful if it ever becomes useful. And also, I mean, I'm kind of aiming low in terms of like graphical fidelity. Like I still want to be able to run on like low-end Android devices and things. So there's not a ton of stuff that would have like super detailed versions, but that's always a bridge we can cross when we get to it. There's no reason we couldn't do LODs. It's just like not a priority right now. And yeah. So yeah, any other last thoughts, questions? Check what before leaving? Okay, well, I will. Okay, I promise I will take a look at this right after the right after the broadcast today. Missing speed power up. Probably won't add the speed power up. The long story short, running out of time here, but long story short is the speed power up. Basically, it was fun, but it also made it basically impossible to navigate some levels. I know there already, there's a lot of people falling off cliffs and stuff, and that just made it like it almost became like a negative power up. People just launch off cliffs constantly. Um, so kind of the run system kind of replaced that because at least it was sort of like a something you had control over. So 1.7 is already kind of heavy for normal instance to handle. I'm not sure on the 2.0 stuff. I wouldn't expect it to be tons different than 1.7. It's hard to say though. It probably will be doing a little bit more work. I mean, as part of 2.0, I want to do things like motion streaming and stuff where it's not actually. Well, I'm hoping bandwidth requirements will hopefully be less at some point. Not to get too much into this, but the game right now, it sends out too much data over the network. It sends a lot of like physics like physics sync packets that have a lot of like floating point values, like transform matrices and things. And I'd like to strip that down so it's just instead of that, it's sending out like kind of compressed motion data, which should be a lot smaller. So from bandwidth usage standpoint, I'm hoping that 2.0 will start to be less intensive. In terms of like the physics simulation, CPU usage and stuff, though, I would expect that would probably stay maybe the same or go up a bit. But it's hard to say. We'll have to see. Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about this. If you had a speed system, it would also, with the current like speed-based damage, it would probably give people like crazy, insane power punches. Um, Again, that's one of those things where like if you expose something or if you need to like test it and make sure it balances in with everything else. So, all right. Well, I think I'm gonna head out here. I'll be online here for a minute. I'll try to respond to some people. So ping me if you have any other follow-up questions. So, anyway, it's been fun, everyone. Oh yeah, that would be ledge grabbing. That would be a ton of work though, but it would be fun. So, all right. Well, everyone have a good week, and I will talk to you all next week. So, peace out, everyone. Bye.